Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The first rays of the Lagos sun filtered through the cream curtains of the bridal suite, spilling warm gold over the bed where Amara Okoye sat cross-legged in a silky robe. The room smelled faintly of fresh roses and vanilla body lotion. In the corner, her bridesmaids laughed over something on a phone, their voices bubbling like champagne. It was her wedding day. She took a slow breath, holding her vows in trembling hands. She'd written and rewritten them 3 times, each word heavy with love for Chike Obi, the man she believed was her forever. Amara, her best friend and maid of honor, Titi Adebayo, stepped forward holding a steaming cup of coffee. Her lace robe matched Amara's, but her gold anklet jingled as she walked. She had a wide smile that almost reached her eyes. Today is your day. Don't let anyone ruin it. Amara smiled, taking the cup. Thanks, Titi. I needed this. You'll need more than coffee before we're done, Titi teased, setting her phone down on the vanity. The screen lit up briefly, a preview of a text message. Everything is ready. Titi's lips curved just slightly as she tapped the phone face down. Amara didn't notice. She sipped her coffee and stared at her reflection. Her heart was steady now, but she knew in a few hours, it would be pounding to the rhythm of wedding drums. Across the suite, her cousin Ife adjusted the train of Amara's gown hanging on the rack. Babe, you're going to break next today. Even your husband won't recognize you. Amara laughed. Let's hope he does. I didn't come this far for him to think he married a stranger. The girls laughed again, but Titi's eyes flicked briefly toward the door. She excused herself quietly, stepping into the hallway. Outside, the hotel was already alive with activity. Caterers unloading crates, florists carrying baskets, groomsmen in crisp white shirts joking loudly. Titi walked toward the service elevator, pulling out her phone. You're sure it's today? A male voice asked on the other end. Of course, she said, lowering her voice. Everything will be in place before she even notices. There was a pause. Don't mess this up, Titi. She smirked. Relax. It's going to be perfect. Back inside, Amara was too busy to notice her friend's absence. The makeup artist, a petite woman with nimble fingers, was working on her brows. Close your eyes, Madame Amara. Amara obeyed, feeling the gentle brush strokes. She thought about the first time she met Chike at an event planning conference. He'd been so confident, so sure of himself, yet unexpectedly kind. They'd talked for hours over palm wine and small chops. She opened her eyes to see her phone buzzing on the table. It was Chike. Baby, are you up? His voice was warm, playful. I've been up since 6. How's your side? Chaotic, he said with a chuckle. Ngozi is already barking orders at the groomsmen. Amara smiled faintly. Your mother just wants things perfect. There was a pause. Yeah, perfect. He didn't sound convinced. Before she could ask, Titi re-entered, her face bright again. Who's ready for the bride's big transformation? She announced. The morning slipped into a whirl of activity, hairpins clicking, fabric rustling, laughter spilling out into the hallway. Amara's veil was laid carefully on the bed. Her bouquet rested in a tall crystal vase. Still, between moments of joy, there were flickers of unease she couldn't name. Around 10 a.m., a hotel staff member knocked with a tray of pastries and juice. Compliments of the groom's family, he said, setting it down. Amara thanked him, but Titi stepped in quickly. Let's save that for later. Don't want crumbs on the dress. By noon, Amara was in her gown. The satin hugged her figure, and the beaded bodice shimmered as she moved. She turned to the mirror, breath-catching. I look like a bride, she whispered. Titi stood behind her, adjusting the veil. You look unforgettable. A knock at the door interrupted them. It was Amara's aunt, Mama Rose, her face glowing. NWAM, everyone is waiting. Time to make an entrance. As they stepped into the corridor, Amara's heart raced. She gripped her bouquet tighter, the scent of fresh lilies rising to meet her. Guests turned as she entered the lobby, phones out, capturing every step. Titi leaned close to whisper, You've got this. Just smile. No one needs to see what's really going on. Amara glanced at her friend, puzzled. What do you mean? Nothing, Titi said quickly, plastering on her brightest smile. Outside, the convoy of decorated cars gleamed in the midday sun. Drummers beat out a rhythm that echoed in Amara's chest. She climbed into the lead car, her bridesmaids following. As the vehicles pulled away toward the church, she looked out at the city rushing by, hawkers weaving between traffic, children waving from the roadside, the scent of suya drifting through open windows. She tried to shake off the strange heaviness in her chest. This was her day. Her dream. And in just a few hours she'd be Mrs. Chaik Obi. Behind her, in the second car, Titi sat with her phone in her lap, typing a short message. It's happening. She hit send without a flicker of hesitation. The church's bridal dressing room smelled faintly of talcum powder and fresh flowers. Sunlight streamed through the tall arched windows, bouncing off the white satin gown Amara wore. Her bridesmaids moved around her in a dance of last-minute adjustments, fixing the train, retouching lipstick, readying the bouquet ribbons. She sat for a moment in front of the vanity mirror, watching her own reflection. Her heart was steady, but there was an odd undercurrent in the air, like whispers carried by the wind. And then she realized, there were whispers. Across the room, two distant relatives, Auntie Clara and Cousin Beezy, were speaking in hushed tones near the wardrobe. Amara caught only fragments. Imagine her, knowing what happened with that ex. Shoo, don't start, today is her wedding. But you remember the engagement party, nah? That woman nearly caused a scene. Amara's brows knitted. She cleared her throat and smiled politely. I can hear you, Auntie Clara. The older woman flinched. Oh, Amara, we were just gossiping, Beezy finished without shame, earning herself a sharp glare from her aunt. But it's nothing serious. Amara forced a laugh. If it's about Chaik's ex, I already know. And trust me, she's not crashing this wedding. But the seed of unease had been planted. She fiddled with her earrings as her bridesmaids fussed over her veil. Titi appeared at her side, her presence smooth as oil. Ignore them, Amara. You know how people like drama at weddings. I'm fine, Amara said, but her voice lacked conviction. Titi's gaze lingered a moment longer before she excused herself. I'll just check on the drinks. We don't want guests waiting. She slipped out of the dressing room and walked briskly down the corridor to the church's small catering area. Inside, waiters were arranging bottles of champagne and juice for the reception. She approached one of them, a slim man in a black vest. Is it ready? She asked quietly. He nodded. Yes, madam. Good, she murmured. Make sure it gets to her at the right time. Not before. Not after. The man hesitated. You're sure no one will? Just do as I said. Titi cut him off, her tone sharp. She smoothed her dress and left. Back in the dressing room, Amara tried to push away the conversation she'd overheard. She told herself every wedding had its share of rumors and small dramas. But when she glanced in the mirror, she saw her own face, still smiling, but her eyes, there was a shadow there now. A knock came at the door. It's time, the wedding coordinator announced. Her bridesmaids cheered softly. Titi returned just in time, slipping into her position as maid of honor. You ready, Mrs. Obi-to-be? Amara smiled, pushing the unease deep down. Ready. As the music began to swell from the church hall, she took a deep breath. Whatever whispers or shadows lingered, they would have to wait. Today was still her day. The church ceremony was a blur of music, hymns, and the rustle of silk and lace. Amara's vows rolled off her tongue with emotion, her eyes fixed on Chaik's. He smiled at her in a way that made the rest of the world disappear. When the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, the congregation erupted into applause. Cameras flashed, petals rained down, and they walked down the aisle hand in hand. The reception was held in a grand Lagos hall, glittering with chandeliers and decorated in gold and ivory. Guests were already seated, sipping drinks and waiting for the newlyweds. As Amara stepped into the hall, her mother-in-law, Ngozi Obi, intercepted her. She looked regal in her deep purple lace gown and geli, her face carefully composed. Amara, she said with a thin smile. You look beautiful. Thank you, Mama, Amara replied warmly. Ngozi leaned closer, her perfume a mix of rose and something sharper. My son is precious to me, she said softly. I hope you are ready for the sacrifices marriage demands. The words themselves were not unkind, but the cold gleam in her eyes made Amara's stomach tighten. Of course, Mama. I love Chaik. Ngozi straightened. Love is not enough. Remember that. Before Amara could respond, a waiter approached with a tray of champagne. Ngozi casually took one glass, inspected it, then set it aside. She murmured something to the waiter, who nodded and walked away. Titi, watching from across the hall, caught the exchange. Her lips curved slightly. Everything okay? Chaik asked, slipping his arm around Amara's waist. Yes, she lied. Just Mama welcoming me to the family. The reception roared to life. Music thumping, guests dancing, laughter echoing under the chandeliers. Midway through, Titi stood to give her toast. She spoke about growing up with Amara, about late-night talks and dreams they'd shared. Her voice wavered with emotion and the guests dabbed their eyes. When she finished, applause filled the hall. A waiter stepped forward, carrying a single glass of champagne on a silver tray. "From your best friend?" he said with a smile, holding it toward Amara. Amara took it, touched by the gesture. "Thank you, Titi." Titi raised her own glass. "To Amara and Chaik, may your love never fade." The crowd echoed the toast, glasses clinking. Amara took a sip, the bubbles dancing on her tongue. It tasted faintly bitter, but she brushed it off as nerves. Across the hall, Titi sipped her wine, eyes never leaving Amara's face. The band struck up a lively tune, and Chaik led Amara to the dance floor. Their first dance was slow and sweet, guests swaying along. Midway through the song, Amara felt a strange heat rise in her throat. She tried to keep smiling, but her lips trembled. "Are you okay?" Chaik whispered, concern flickering in his eyes. "Yes. I think so," she managed, though her knees felt weak. Her vision blurred, the lights seemed too bright. She saw Titi at the edge of the crowd, raising her wine glass in a silent salute. The song ended, applause breaking out, but Amara's smile had already frozen. The applause from their first dance was still echoing when Amara's knees buckled. At first, people thought she was swooning from excitement. But then her bouquet slipped from her hands, petals scattering across the polished floor. "Amara." Chaik's voice cracked. He caught her before she hit the ground. Gasps rippled through the hall. The MC's voice faltered. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. Call an ambulance." Chaik shouted, panic sharpening his tone. The photographer's camera kept clicking, almost on instinct, capturing the moment her ivory dress spread across the floor like fallen snow. Her head lolled against Chaik's shoulder, her breathing shallow. Titi was among the first to reach them, crouching down. "What happened?" "She's burning up," Chaik said, his voice trembling. "Something's wrong." "Clear the way," someone yelled as two ushers rushed forward. In the corner, Ngozi stood frozen, her face unreadable. The band stopped playing. Guests murmured, their voices like a low tide. "Stay with me, Amara," Chaik whispered, brushing damp curls from her face. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. The ambulance arrived within minutes, red lights spilling across the entrance. Paramedics worked quickly, checking her vitals and lifting her onto a stretcher. "Sir, you'll have to ride with us," one of them told Chaik. He climbed in beside her, gripping her hand as the doors slammed shut. Titi stayed behind, watching the flashing lights fade into the night. A faint smile tugged at her lips before she composed herself. The sirens wailed through Lagos traffic, the ambulance weaving between cars. Chaik held Amara's hand, whispering her name over and over. Her skin felt clammy, her eyelids fluttering. "Her heart rate is unstable," one paramedic said. "What's wrong with her?" Chaik demanded. "Too soon to tell. We'll know more at the hospital." Chaik pressed his forehead to her hand. "You're going to be fine, baby. Just hold on." At the hospital, doctors rushed her into the emergency ward. Chaik tried to follow, but a nurse stopped him. "Please wait here, sir. We'll update you." Minutes felt like hours. He paced the waiting area, ignoring the curious stares of other patients' families. Ngozi arrived, flanked by two relatives. "What happened?" she demanded. "She collapsed during the dance," Chaik said. "They don't know what's wrong yet." Titi came in moments later, breathless. "I came as soon as I could." Chaik's eyes narrowed. "You were right there. Did you see anything?" "No," Titi said quickly. "She just went down." A doctor in a white coat approached. "Mr. Obi?" "Yes," Chaik said, stepping forward. "I'm Dr. Sei Adekunle. Your wife is stable for now, but we need to run further tests. Her symptoms are unusual." "What do you mean?" "Her heart rate spiked, then dropped sharply. This could be due to a reaction to something she ingested." Chaik's brows furrowed. "Like food poisoning?" Dr. Sei's gaze was steady. "Possibly. Or something more serious." Later that night, Dr. Sei called Chaik into his office. "Does your wife have any allergies?" "No. None that I know of." The doctor leaned back. "Then I'm concerned. Her symptoms point to a toxic substance." Chaik's stomach twisted. "Toxic? As in poison?" Dr. Sei didn't answer directly. "What did she eat or drink last?" A bridesmaid who had accompanied them spoke up. "She had champagne from a special glass. Titi gave it to her." Titi's eyes widened. "Are you blaming me for this?" "It was a toast. I was just being thoughtful." Dr. Sei studied her face. "Did you drink from the same bottle?" "No," Titi said quickly. "I had wine." The doctor made a note. We'll run tests on the contents of that glass. In the meantime, keep her hydrated and under observation. As they left the office, Chaik glanced at Titi. Her smile was thin, her eyes unreadable. By morning the lab results were back. Dr. Sei called Chaik in. It's confirmed, your wife ingested a toxic substance. It's not immediately fatal, but without treatment it could be. Chaik's hands curled into fists. Who would do this? That's for the police to determine. For now we need to flush it out of her system. In her hospital bed, Amara stirred. Her voice was weak. Chaik. I'm here, he said, taking her hand. Her eyes fluttered open. My throat burns. We're treating it, he assured her. Titi entered, clutching flowers. How's she doing? Chaik's tone was curt. Resting. She placed the flowers on the side table. I'll help find out who did this. Chaik said nothing, but his gaze lingered on her a second too long. When she left, she pulled out her phone and deleted a string of messages. That afternoon, Detective Colonel Balagan arrived at the hospital. A tall man with sharp eyes, he carried a notepad and an air of authority. I understand your wife was poisoned, he said to Chaik. We need to start from the beginning. They recounted the wedding, the toast, the glass. Who served her the drink? Colonel asked. A waiter, Chaik replied. Where is he now? Titi interjected. I barely know him. He was just part of the catering staff. Detective Connell's expression didn't change. We'll see. Later, CCTV footage from the reception hall revealed something. The waiter had spoken to Titi privately before handing over the glass. Connell's pen paused. Interesting. When he returned to Chaik, his words were measured. We're going to find that waiter. 2 days later, Detective Connell's team located the missing waiter in a shabby guest lodge on the outskirts of Lagos. Connell entered the dimly lit room with 2 officers. The young man, no older than 23, froze mid-step, a small bag in his hand. Sit down, Connell ordered. I didn't do anything, the waiter stammered. Connell dropped a photograph of Amara in her wedding dress onto the table. You served her this drink. She collapsed minutes later. Talk. The waiter's eyes darted around. I was paid to give her that glass. Connell leaned in. By who? The man hesitated. Not her friend. Not exactly. The money came from an account. Someone called Ngozi Obi. Connell's brows lifted. The groom's mother? That's what the transfer said. I didn't ask questions. Back at the hospital, Connell delivered the news to Chaik. Chaik shook his head violently. No. My mother would never. Connell's voice was firm. The payment trail is clear. Amara, still weak in bed, listened silently. Her gaze shifted to Ngozi, who had arrived minutes earlier. Is this true? Amara asked softly. Ngozi's face was unreadable. I did what I had to do to protect my son. The hospital room was silent except for the beeping of monitors. Chaik stepped forward. Protect me? By poisoning my wife. Ngozi's chin lifted. I didn't poison her. I just wanted her too ill to go through with the wedding. It was for your own good. Amara's voice shook. So you would have humiliated me in front of the whole city? Ngozi ignored her, looking only at Chaik. You don't know the full story about her family. Chaik's hands tightened into fists. I know enough to love her. In the corner, Titi cleared her throat. Sometimes mothers see what sons refuse to. Amara turned her head sharply toward Titi. And you, my so-called best friend, have been very quiet. Titi's eyes widened in mock innocence. I'm just saying, maybe Ngozi's instincts weren't entirely wrong. Ngozi gave Titi a strange look, as if realizing they were not fully aligned. Connell stepped in. Enough. Until the toxicology report is final, both of you are under suspicion. 3 days later, Amara woke fully from her haze. Her body felt heavy, but her mind was sharper. Chaik was at her bedside. Baby, you scared me. She gave him a faint smile. Where's my drink? He frowned. Why would you want that? I just remember something. The toast. The glass. It tasted wrong. He nodded. We know now it was tampered with. The police. No, she interrupted. Don't tell Titi I remember. Keep her close. I want to see her face when the truth comes out. Chaik studied her, then nodded. All right. When Titi visited that evening, she carried a basket of fruit and an exaggerated smile. Look at you back among the living. Amara met her eyes. Thanks for being here. Titi's grin held, but there was a flicker, barely a shadow, before she looked away. Detective Connell returned with a flash drive. We've got the full wedding footage. Chaik plugged it into his laptop. The room filled with the sounds of laughter, music, and clinking glasses. "Pause there," Connell said. The screen froze on the moment the waiter handed Titi the glass. Zoomed in, they could see Titi whisper something before passing it to Amara. Her fingers lingered on the rim. Amara watched silently, her face expressionless. Ngozi, seated in the corner, frowned. What was she saying to him? Connell looked at Chike. "You tell me." The slow-motion replay was damning. Titi's lips moving deliberately, her eyes fixed on the glass. Chike exhaled. It's over for her. That night, Chike and Amara invited Titi to the hospital under the guise of thanking her for her support. Titi arrived in a flowing floral dress, smiling as if nothing in the world was wrong. "How's my bride?" she said brightly. Amara patted the bed. "Come sit. We wanted to show you something." Chike brought out the laptop and played the wedding clip. Titi's smile froze. "What is this?" "You tell us," Chike said evenly. She tried to laugh. "I was just checking if the drink was safe." Amara's gaze cut into her. "Safe? Then why didn't you drink from it yourself?" Titi's voice trembled. "You're twisting this." Connell stepped into the room from the hallway. "Save it. You're already in deeper than you think." The silence in the hospital room was thick enough to choke on. Titi's hands trembled in her lap, her eyes darting from Chike to Amara to Detective Connell. "Why?" Chike asked quietly, the kind of quiet that's more dangerous than shouting. "Why would you do this to her?" Titi let out a bitter laugh. "Why? You really don't remember, do you, Chike?" Chike's brows knitted. "Remember what?" She turned to Amara, her expression twisted. "We were friends. Sisters even. Until you stole him from me." Amara blinked. "Stole him? You and Chike were never." "We were close," Titi snapped. "I was there first. I liked him for years, but you," she jabbed a finger at Amara, "you swooped in with your perfect smile and your event planner charm, and suddenly I was invisible." "That's insane," Chike said flatly. "No, what's insane is watching you flaunt your engagement in my face," Titi spat. "I wanted you to feel even a fraction of what I felt." Amara's voice was cold. "So you tried to kill me?" "I just wanted to ruin your perfect day," Titi said, her voice cracking. "But I wasn't the only one who wanted you gone." Connell's eyes sharpened. "And that's where Ngozi comes in, right?" Titi looked down at her hands. "She paid the waiter. I just made sure what went into the glass would finish the job." Amara's stomach turned. Chike stood slowly, his face pale. "You both disgust me." The next morning, Detective Connell requested a private meeting with Ngozi in one of the hospital's quiet conference rooms. Ngozi sat with her geli perfectly arranged, her hands folded on the table. She looked more like a dignitary than a suspect. "Mrs. Obi," Connell began, "we have the bank transfer linking you to the waiter." Ngozi didn't flinch. "Yes. I arranged it." "So you admit to attempting to stop the wedding?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "I told him to give her something that would make her sick for a few hours. Enough to postpone things. I never said anything about poison." Connell's tone was skeptical. "And yet she nearly died." Ngozi's gaze hardened. "That was Titi. She told me she had a way to make Amara too weak to marry, but I didn't know she meant to use something lethal." "You expect me to believe you didn't coordinate?" "I expect you to believe a mother would do anything to protect her son," Ngozi said evenly. "Amara is not who she seems. Her family." "This is not about her family," Connell cut in. "It's about your actions." Back in Amara's room, Chike told her about his mother's statement. "She's trying to paint herself as innocent," Amara said, her voice trembling with anger. "But she set the whole thing in motion." Chike rubbed his temples. "I don't know what to think anymore." "You should think about the fact that I almost died on our wedding day," she replied. By evening, Connell had all the pieces he needed. He arrived at the hospital with 2 uniformed officers. Ngozi was in the hallway speaking to a relative when Connell approached. "Mrs. Obi, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit assault." Her eyes widened. "Assault? That's ridiculous." "It's not," Connell said, nodding to his officers. "We have evidence linking you to the payment and coordination with the primary suspect, Titi Adebayo." Across the corridor, Titi was pacing outside Amara's room. She looked up just in time to see the officers coming for her. "What? No. You can't arrest me," she shrieked. Connell's tone was cold. "We can and we will. You're being charged with attempted murder." Patients and visitors stopped to stare as both women were led away in handcuffs. From her bed, Amara watched through the open doorway, her face unreadable. Chike stood beside her, his jaw tight. I'm so sorry, Amara. She didn't look at him. Sorry doesn't erase what they did. Outside, the flashing red and blue lights painted the hospital walls as the two women were placed into separate police vehicles. For the first time since the wedding, Amara felt a strange sense of calm, though she knew the damage had already been done. The hospital felt too quiet once Ngozi and Titi were gone. 4 days, Amara stayed in her room, staring at the pale green walls, listening to the muffled footsteps in the hallway. She had survived, but she didn't feel victorious. Chaik was a constant presence, bringing her fresh fruit, sitting by her bed, telling her stories about their university days to make her smile. Sometimes she laughed. Sometimes she just listened in silence. One afternoon he came in carrying a folded newspaper. "They're everywhere," he said, laying it on her lap. The headline read, "Mother-in-law and maid of honor arrested for poisoning bride at Lagos wedding." Beneath it was a photo of Amara in her wedding gown, her head turned toward Chaik, completely unaware of what was coming. Amara traced the image with her fingers. "This is how they'll remember my wedding." Chaik reached for her hand. "I'll make sure this isn't your last happy memory." She looked at him for a long moment. "I want to believe you, Chaik. But how do I trust you after everything? They were so close to you. You didn't see any of this coming." He swallowed hard. "I failed you. But I'll spend the rest of my life making it right." Later that evening, Detective Kunnel visited to officially close the active investigation. "Titi has confessed to administering the poison," he said. Ngozi admitted to paying the waiter, but she maintained she didn't know Titi's true intentions. Amara's lips twisted into a faint, bitter smile. She knew enough. Kunnel hesitated before continuing. "The court process will take time. You may be called to testify." "I'll be there," Amara said without hesitation. When Kunnel left, Amara sat quietly for a while, staring out of the window at the Lagos skyline. The city lights sparkled, indifferent to her pain. Chaik came in with dinner. "You need to eat." She took a bite, chewing slowly. "You know what's funny?" she said softly. "The poison didn't kill me. But it still might have taken something from me." He looked at her sharply. "What do you mean?" "I'll tell you when I know for sure." 3 months later, Amara sat in a different doctor's office. Not Dr. Say's but a quiet fertility clinic in Abuja. The specialist, a gentle-faced woman, glanced over her file before meeting Amara's eyes. "I'm sorry. The toxic substance caused damage to your reproductive system. The chances of natural conception are extremely low." Amara's throat tightened. She had prepared herself for bad news, but hearing it out loud felt like a blade sliding between her ribs. "Is there anything at all that can be done?" she asked. The doctor hesitated. "There are treatments, but success rates are limited. And the damage is permanent." When she left the clinic, the Abuja air was warm, the sky streaked with orange from the setting sun. She walked slowly, each step heavy. Back in Lagos that evening, she sat by the apartment window, wedding ring in hand. Chaik entered quietly. "How was the appointment?" he asked. Amara didn't look at him. "They said the poison, it damaged me. I can't have children. At least not naturally." The silence between them stretched. Finally, Chaik moved to kneel beside her. "Amara, we'll get through this. We can adopt, we can—" She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "This isn't just about children, Chaik. It's about what they took from me. About how the people closest to you destroyed me, and you didn't see it coming." He reached for her hand, but she pulled it away. "I love you," he said, his voice breaking. She finally met his eyes, her gaze steady despite the tears. Sometimes love isn't enough. That night, after Chaik had gone to bed, Amara sat alone, scrolling through the photos from her wedding. She stopped on one, her holding the champagne glass, smiling at the crowd. She stared at it for a long time, then pressed delete. Some memories, she decided, didn't deserve to be kept. Outside, the city moved on, traffic buzzing, laughter spilling from street stalls. Inside, Amara sat in the dim light, the weight of her loss pressing in. Justice had come. But the truth, the full, irreversible truth, had come too late to save what mattered most. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe, and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.